Hello Year 11. I'm going to talk to you now about a comment that you very often get on essays, or a target that's often set, which is that if you've done a piece of writing like a paragraph about a poem, and you've used a quotation, you might get the target. You need to comment on the key words of a quotation. You need to write about the quotation in greater depth by commenting on the powerful words. So how exactly do you do that? Okay, what you need to do is two things really. One, you need to learn or know exactly what the words mean that you're commenting on. You need to have a precise understanding of what they mean. It's no good having just a vague point of view. So you need to know exactly what they mean. And then you need to decide what their effects are in the poem. Particularly if you're preparing for your poetry exam, just go through, learn them and learn what their effects are. Maybe one or two for each poem. So let's have a look at an example. Bayonet Charge, wonderful ending here, the Ted Hughes poem. He plunged past with his bayonet toward the green hedge. King, honour, human dignity, etc. dropped like luxuries in a yelling alarm to get out of that blue, crackling air. His terrors, touchy dynamite. Amazing. Look at the last line. So it slows down there as we're faced with the full horror of the situation that the man is in as he runs towards this hedge where the German soldiers are firing at him, trying to kill him. Right, but let's look at how you might then take this idea of writing about a key word. Let's look at this line. He plunged past with his bayonet toward the green hedge. Now, often you're thinking, what is the most powerful word? What's the word it's best for me to comment on? What can I say most about? What's most influential in the quote? Now, often it's adjectives or verbs. So if I look at the adjectives here, right, the only adjective I've got is green, green hedge. Green is not an especially descriptive word here, so I'm not going to do that one. So I'll go for the verb. Now, what's the verb? The verb here is plunged. Now, what does plunged actually mean? That's what you'd need to know and you'd need to learn. Because you might think plunge means run fast. Well, it sort of does, but actually a more specific or more exact definition would be something like this: to jump or dive quickly and energetically. Our little daughters whooped as they plunged into the sea. So you've got this idea of jumping or diving associated with plunge. Now we know our guy's running, right? But then nevertheless they've chosen to describe it as jumping, a word which reminds us of ideas of jumping or diving. So why might that be important? Well, I was thinking about along these lines. You might say in your analysis, use of the word plunged shows that he's moving unstoppably and at great speed, because jumping and diving, you can't stop, right? That's why they're different to running. And then I might extend that a little bit more. It suggests he's out of control, as if he's falling, so his destiny is out of his hands. Now that's not the only thing I'd write about that quote. You might write about what it means first of all. You might write other ideas. But this, if you're trying to comment on individual words, you might do something like this to enable you to do that. Find one word, learn what it means. If you don't know what it means, you can't write about it. So find out specifically, exactly what it means, and then that gives you a chance to really think, why has he chosen plunged with this idea about diving or falling, and not just running or sprinted or something like that? It suggests falling. You could argue, you could interpret it as, descending, going, falling downwards. This kind of negative idea, frightening idea. Okay, so that's that one. What about this then? King, honour, human dignity, etc. dropped like luxuries in a yelling alarm. Love that enjambment here, the way the line keeps its pace from there to there. So it gives it that really pacey, kind of panicked feel. Well, I'd maybe be tempted to write about this bit here. This is interesting. A yelling alarm. The idea here is that he dropped. These ideas are important, or have been important. The idea of your king, your honour, your dignity as a human. The fact that you are in control of yourself. But all those things have been dropped as if it's a luxury in the terror of this situation. But why to describe it as a yelling alarm? That stands out to me as an unusual use of language, an unusual word. So maybe we'll comment on that. Yelling, of course, is shouting. Shouting maybe in fear, or in terror, or in horror. But it's a loud yelling, isn't it? So what could we say? How about this? Use of the image, yelling alarm. Now here's where I'm going to write about tone. contributes to the overall tone of panic and fear in this stanza. And then I'll use another connective here. It amplifies the sense that he is terrified and out of control. You might say it reinforces the sense, but I like that. It amplifies the sense, like an amplifier. It makes it seem more important. Emphasizes is another one you could use there. So how about that? An example of how you know what the tone of the stanza is, or tone of the poem is. In this case, it's a tone of panic and fear. Other poems have different tones, don't they? They're much sadder, or they have a melancholy tone, or a sort of a despairing tone. Here, it's about fear. So we've used our analysis of the keywords to comment on that. Finally, to get out of that blue crackling air, his terror's touchy dynamite. Interesting one. You might get your attention drawn to blue crackling air, which is an unusual image, but quite difficult to write about. You have to really think about this one. Use of the phrase blue crackling air is important here. Notice I've used the semicolon there, and it's fine to say that is important here. It's a great one to just slow your analysis down a little bit, make that point. The fact that the air is blue implies that the events are unnatural and frightening. I think there's also something here, isn't there, about like electricity in the air, danger in the air, as if it's kind of lightning that's around him. That general tone of danger and fear. It's difficult to pin down an exact meaning, isn't it? But you don't have to do that. You just need to make a suggestion. Crackling. Could that be the sound of the rifles firing? Could it link also to his terror's touchy dynamite? The idea with dynamite is that it's about to sort of explode, isn't it? That he could die at any moment, that things could explode at any moment. Maybe the blue crackling air contributes to that idea as well, that he's in mortal danger, that he could die at any moment. Well, let's look at a different poem, At the Border 1979. What if there's not so much going on in the poem? What if it's not so descriptive? This poem's written from a child's perspective, and it says this: the land under our feet continued, divided by a thick iron chain. There's not hugely descriptive words there, are there? As you'd expect from a child sort of telling the story, leading the poem. So what's important? Well, the verb is continued. Not a great deal I could say about that. What about a thick iron chain? I think I can make something of that. Thick iron chain. You've got two adjectives in a row. Clearly they're trying to emphasise something there, aren't they? And what is it? Well, this chain, of course, represents the border. If you say the chain is thick and iron, well, you're trying to emphasise, aren't you, how strong it is. So maybe something like the use of the adjectives thick and iron reinforce the idea that the chain, like the border, is supposed to be powerful and strong. Of course, in the poem it goes on to say, excuse my phone going, it goes on to say that the little girl just climbs over the border, so it shows that actually they're not perhaps as important as we think. But that's how you could use the idea of commenting on individual words, even if the words are quite relatively ordinary words. You can't do it with words that don't really add anything to the poem. You couldn't do it on the land under our feet. I don't think. Use of the word land shows nothing really. Well, beyond its actual meaning. So you're looking for words which are unusual or creative or interesting in some way, that give you something to write about. Useful phrases that you should learn: the use of the word something suggests, the verb something implies a sense of, or suggests a sense of, the choice of the word something amplifies the sense that, or amplifies the idea that, the word reinforces a sense of, the word conveys a feeling that, conveys the idea that means gets across. Or this one is really good: contributes to a something tone in the poem, or contributes to the tone of something in the poem. I'd add one here. Intensifies is another good one. The use of the word crackling intensifies the sense of danger and fear in the poem. So that's what you need to learn to do. Why do we comment on individual words? What are we looking for? We're looking for the ways that they provide emphasis or bring attention to certain ideas, like danger in or terror or fear in Bayonet Charge, like the strength of the border in, or how it's supposed to be in At the Border. How do they contribute to the tone of a poem or a stanza? These simple words in At the Border contribute to the sense that it's a childish tone in the poem, which allows us to understand that borders are artificial and man-made, not natural. Or they can create emotional responses in the reader. The use of Terror's touchy dynamite helps us to empathise with the character and feel their sense of fear, or share their sense of fear, something like that. Right, that's so important. Go and learn for each poem at least 2 or 3 words and phrases that you will learn what you'd say about them and be ready to comment on them.